Hi, and welcome to Connect. Connect is a series of conversations between community members about issues that are impacting our community, issues of interest not only to the community at large, but to individuals and how it really affects them. Today we'll be talking about homelessness, and the title of the show is Houseless, but at Home in Santa Cruz. And I think that really describes my friend and ally, Michael, Ohre Dreamcatcher. Welcome. I'm Steve Pleich, and this conversation I've really been looking forward to.
Me too.
Talk about and reminisce about some of the things that we've done together. Tell folks just a little bit about when you came into town and kind of set that up for us.
I arrived in September of '08
Yeah.
with a girlfriend from Venice Beach, and we were pursuing the live-in commune garden projects that we heard up here.
Right.
So we got paid way to come up here from a friend and thought it was a great idea, and we split up since then because different paths.
Yeah.
And I stayed with the homeless thing and got a good reputation. Impeccability was my goal, and I didn't want to share any of my past, so I became a new person here.
Well, you've been a prominent member of the Houseless community here in Santa Cruz for as long as I can remember. Our history goes back to 2011, Occupy Santa Cruz. And while I was kind of on the courthouse steps, Occupy courthouse steps there, you were down in San Lorenzo Park, Occupy San Lorenzo Park, 150 tents, houseless folks down there, and you were kind of the overall
Head
kind of
honcho.
security guy, supervisor, head honcho.
Yeah, that's what a good name
you
was,
know,
right
and
there.
that was great heady times. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was one of the most interesting times of my life. I met some of the most fantastic people under the most unusual circumstances, and I didn't follow it at all, and stayed neutral on the politics. Just carried out the orders to get along so we could occupy the space. That was a great experience, making it all look like it was up front because there's a lot of paranoid homeless people.
And you stayed there right from the start because we kind of
Yeah,
started
72 days.
out by the bocce ball court.
72 days.
And then we kind of migrated around. I was telling you that somebody had actually strung a hammock between two trees out there by the bocce ball court. But eventually we ended up at the benchlands, and so that was where our Occupy San Lorenzo Park was.
Correct. We were first contacted there across the street at the bank that we occupied. Dale and Steve and I were like the three main guys that they were referred to. We thought they were tourists just looking for a cheap hotel or something. Well, it turned out to be that 72 days of some fine quality occupation.
Yeah.
And it was pretty well organized. We had like a Great Wall of China or no man's land where the computer kids would stay away from the homeless kids.
But you had a kitchen and all this stuff. I mean, my really proudest moments during the Occupy was kind of walking across the Water Street Bridge and looking down into San Lorenzo Park, the benchline, and seeing these 150 tents. And I can tell you that it's the first time in my experience, and I don't go back a long way in Santa Cruz about activism, but my experience, the houseless community and the activist community, because houseless folks are just trying to survive. They don't necessarily get very political. But there was a kind of coming together, of the houseless community and the activists that were there.
We came upon something in
connecting
common.
it with the courthouse steps folks. It was unbelievable.
Correct. It was. I call it the biggest camp out in the world.
Yeah.
Clown camp, I called it, because we were all pretty goofy. But all along, we got along pretty well. We were the only non-hostile Occupy on Earth that didn't have a confrontation.
It was relatively peaceful, and thanks in not small part to you. You had some experience with crowd control and really you had the cred of being houseless for a long period of time. That people respected your ability to go down there and kind of keep things cool, keep them calm, and keep the communication flowing.
Did you see me do the hokey pokey one day?
I did not see you do the hokey
I had
pokey.
everybody.
If we had time,
oh yes.
have you do it now.
It was after the big fight we had that night, and everybody was uptight, and I wanted everybody to loosen up, so I did the hokey pokey, and I turned myself around, and everybody just. Did we just see that? And they loosened up a little bit, got a few laughs.
Yeah.
We had a good crew out there working together.
Yeah, it was a tremendous crew, and really I'm sorry that it ended kind of when it did, because we were just kind of really cementing the relations between the houseless community and the activists. And I think to a large extent, now that's given rise to a situation where the houseless folks, and as I say, people are trying to survive day to day, find it difficult to get involved in, political things that take time and energy. But there's more of that now, I think, than there was, and this is 2011, so it's been a few years past, but there's been kind of a growth of that.
Yes, there has. There's been an awareness, and even between someone that looks homeless that isn't homeless,
yeah,
and I look homeless, yeah, or I could not be, all that good stuff. There's someone that spanges, and then there is a true artist that's got a hobby there that might be, doing something besides just collecting junk or trash.
And artists like yourself.
Yes.
And, we're talking about the history between you and I, there was the Occupy, and then shortly thereafter, about the same time, I started doing the Thanksgiving dinners at the Civic Center, and you were the guy helping us out, doing the bag check and all of that,
Right, I have contact with everybody. That's what made it good.
Because as you recall, as you know, that for 25 years they had that at the Veterans Memorial Building downtown. They got red tagged because they had seismic problems.
That's true.
So a group of folks and myself kind of took it over to the Civic, and we had it there for 4 or 5 years until now it's back at the Veterans Memorial Building, thank goodness. But you were involved with that. You were there with us. You were there helping us out. Again, cementing that kind of connection between. It's a houseless meal, but nevertheless, you want to have the house people involved. And that's really important.
Yes, but instead of picking up trash and rocks out of ditches, we could take a little more personal pride in what we leave behind.
Yeah, and every year since then, and you got some wonderful pictures here that are being shown of folks who have been to some of our meals over time, and now we're having the meals not only at the Veterans Memorial Building on Thanksgiving, but also Christmas at the Museum of Art and History.
That's a good one.
I think this last year, we had you doing the bag check. Wonderful. I mean, here's,
I like
houseless people really have to carry around everything they own all day long. So when you're going into a building to have a meal, you don't want to drag your stuff in. Generally speaking, there's just no room for it. So we had you right at the side of the Veterans Memorial Building, between the Veterans Memorial Building and the post office. A beautiful area. You got you had pieces of tape or some damn thing going on.
We had a good system.
But it was remarkably well organized.
Yes,
and
it
people.
was. Thanks to you.
Here's the point, Dreamcatcher, that is important. The connect part of it is that the houseless people trust you. And it's not everybody that's going to trust somebody with all their worldly goods, even to go inside a building and have a little meal.
There was one guy that didn't.
Yeah, well, sorry, son.
He's the one that lost something. Yes,
so, and building on that, and you still are involved with that with us, but building on that, we have the Project Homeless Connect. You got your shirt on.
Yes.
But those that we've done now 2 a year, a houseless service fair for folks who need to come in and access, they might not be able to access DMV or housing or this, that, and the other thing. We have 2 a year now, one in Santa Cruz and one in Watsonville. And you are there helping us out with that. You were just there this last one for Santa Cruz.
That was fun.
At the Santa Cruz Bible Church, and you were there with your lady. I took a great picture of you there,
good.
And again, you're kind of involved with the things that are happening in the houseless community on all different levels. And that's why you and I connect so well.
And appropriately.
Yeah.
Right. I don't feel it's always the best of the way they act, so I get granted the most cordial homeless man that city workers meet. And I help, calm things down.
Well, again, you're well known, you've got the cred, people trust you.
Charisma.
And that's important to have, that kind of connection, be able to connect between houseless community and the authorities, regardless of who it would be. And that kind of brings us really to kind of the next thing that we were involved with, and that was Freedom Sleepers. And you were one of the original Freedom Sleepers. We started July 4th, 2015 on the post office steps, marched over to City Hall, and had 104 Tuesday sleepouts in a row. But we've got a little video clip of that we'd like to show and kind of reminisce a bit. And then Dreamcatcher and I will come back and we'll reminisce a little bit more about it.
A lot of things changed.
A lot
that
of
time.
things changed.
Quickly,
you better
yes.
believe it. But that was great times for us. So we'll get that clip up. And
family of musicians playing together, drums in the back, guitars in the front.
Vegan?
Yeah.
Kind of lemony. And it's from India Joe Schultz. And non-vegan. Well, we're out here to feed people, but also every Tuesday night the Freedom Sleepers sleep. There's a lot of people that don't have anywhere to sleep at night, which is illegal in the city of Santa Cruz to sleep or cover up with a blanket after 11 o'clock at night. There's also very few places to use the bathroom. So just basic biological functions of a human being are criminalized. These guys have been doing this every Tuesday night for over a year now. And this is Food Not Bombs that is often here feeding people, and especially Abby, but Keith and Abby both sleeping overnight.
And there we saw the park rangers really toward kind of the end of the Freedom Sleepers protest and action, which did last for 104 Tuesdays, of which you were there.
Every one of them.
For every one. Even after that, we got kind of getting chased away. I'll tell you a story about that.
It's a ghost town now.
When we started the Freedom Sleepers, and it was named after Phil Posner, who was actually who's the father of Michael Posner, former city council member here. Phil was actually a freedom rider in Mississippi in the 60s, spent time in jail as a freedom rider. So when we got this group together, it was Abby Samuels and Keith McHenry and Robert Norris and yourself and some others, we said, what are we going to call it? And I said, hey, Freedom Sleepers. And Phil said, no, we don't want to call it Freedom Sleepers. You know, I don't want, freedom. And so I said, Phil, it's so great. We got to have it, So he eventually relented. So we had some gatherings and kind of planning, and went from the courthouse on July 4th, 2015, as I say, marched over to City Hall. And our intention, and you probably get a kick out of this as a houseless person, was to stay there for several days. We were there in the evening. It was July 4th. We had 22 cops come at 1 o'clock in the morning, chasing us around. The people who were housed, like myself, who were there as activists, were so exhausted for one night of doing that, that we finally decided, well, we'll do it, every Tuesday, because that'll give. But
that's
tell
right.
us, you were there, but not only are you there on Tuesday nights, but you're outdoors every night. What's it like, for you being outdoors in Santa Cruz every night?
I don't wear a watch. I don't have to be anywhere at any time at all. I like that, and when I do show up, I'm always on time. Mm-hmm. So that's probably my main reason for pursuing the alternative lifestyle. I've done. I lost track there. Where were we at again?
Oh, you're talking about, just life on the street, because as I say, we had every intention that we're going to be out here for, 4 or 5 days, and we just got tired out, even not carrying our belongings around, just being chased around by the authorities, and it is an intolerable, really, an unacceptable situation in Santa Cruz.
To pick up your stuff every
houseless
time,
folks are treated by the authorities at every level. There really aren't any positive outcomes that we have been able to achieve over time, although we still kind of try to do that. But what I was getting at is that you're out at night, you got your stuff. And then you're down on Pacific Avenue every day. You got your art, you got this and that and the other thing. So you don't wear a watch. Time passes, but you're houseless every day, and not just one night a week as we were.
Correct. Someone asked me if they saw me load my trailer and unload it. He goes, "You do this every day?" I go, "Yeah, twice every day," to get up and go to sleep. The alarm clocks walk around with green uniforms on, and the political atmosphere for the sleepover was great because we had guys getting 72 tickets for smoking because we gave, we gave the right address that didn't pursue us through the court system. So we had some really good poster children, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had some really good activists there, and got very creative.
Well, it's a great group, and it was another example of the things I think that grew and generated out of Occupy, is that the activists in town, and I'm talking about people like, Abby Samuels, who I mentioned, and Keith McHenry, and Phil Posner's wife Louise, and Robert Norris, and folks like that, Zav Hirschfeld. I could go on. Laura, who you saw serving food here. India Joe, who's been tremendously supportive of the Houseless community forever.
And everybody.
But those folks came together and have been able to generate at least some energy and activism around houseless issues, with the houseless community kind of being there with them. I can recall we would have at Freedom Sleepers 50, 60, 75 people, and the critics would say, well, how many of those are just housed activists who are there, making a ruckus? And we'd say, well, you know what? You look around here, the majority of these people are houseless,
right,
and what they're getting here tonight is a safe night's sleep for the most part, because after a while the cops stop chasing us around, stop chasing us out of there. They say for one night a week, you get a safe spot, you get a great meal, you get people who care about you, you get somebody who wants to talk to you, that recognizes you for who you are and doesn't disregard you.
Right, the legal support services was very handy for a lot of people. Yes, they didn't know what to do or where to go, and they don't want to go in a building.
Well, you had, I've been over to the courthouse for some folks who say, oh, what's my ticket situation? You go over. It's an easy matter for me to go over to the criminal clerk's office and say, well, what's the story with this ticket, or has this been processed through the city attorney's office, just to give people a little peace about what's going on with these enormous amount of tickets that people receive, because people who are houseless are in danger of being ticketed every night.
Oh my God.
Have you received, in your experience,
boy, I probably outnumbered
a camping ticket of any kind, my friend?
72.
There you go. And in addition to which, and it's part of your story, is that you would have, now you have a car, thankfully, but then you had a bicycle with a cart on the back. Had all your stuff, and periodically the cops would come and seize it. And you come downtown and say, Steve, or somebody let me, my stuff got swept up again.
Oh my God, the timing was so impeccably wrong all the time with that. Yes, the seizing of property because it's unattended. I mean, going to the bathroom, getting a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Putting someone in charge of it, they wouldn't allow. No, we know that's not yours. Yeah, but we take turns. We do, guard duty or whatever. They would not allow it. It was to make an example of everybody. Right. Very bad, very bad.
And it's really one of the overarching problems in Santa Cruz about how houseless folks are treated. I've seen it even in the library, and they do a great job at the library trying to be welcoming as they can to the houseless community. They have a Thursday coffee clutch there, and I think that's a great thing. It's great outreach. But I have seen our good friend Ricardo came in and had his stuff. He got quite a bit of stuff, sits down at the computer, and he put his stuff underneath an adjacent table. And that was in danger of kind of getting snatched up by one of the library folks who either wasn't familiar with Ricardo or hadn't asked him where his stuff was. But it's a constant problem for houseless people in Santa Cruz to make sure that their possessions aren't seized for one reason or another. And believe me, this is what you own, right? It's what you have. If it's your art supplies, if it's your bedding, if it's your coffee cup,
Telephone.
Is that a problem?
Your ID,
So,
all your medicine.
Right.
Yes, it was very untimely.
But I want to talk just for a minute, because this is important, I think, to understand the genesis of all this. Is that we went through, with the Freedom Sleepers and that. Right at the end of Freedom Sleepers, when the house community wasn't really there any longer because we'd gotten substantially chased away by some things, you were leading what they call the survival sleepers. And you guys were sleeping there every night right against the city council chambers every single night. And that was, all houseless people. It wasn't any house folks.
Right.
It wasn't us saying, hey, you guys should, hold your ground and go over there and sleep there. It was you and a bunch of other folks who were over there sleeping every single night. And
Right,
that,
because I had to sleep someplace.
yeah, and that took a lot of courage, but also, I think, a lot of political awareness about that, how that impacts, you know.
Easements.
Yeah,
The lines were being drawn everywhere.
Yeah.
They didn't know where they were themselves. So
Yeah.
between the two of us, we found.
And unfortunately, since then, there have been new restrictions placed on for people who don't know. Actually, City Hall and those grounds are considered a city park. And so what we were ticketed for, being there, was being in a park after hours.
After hours.
And then they said, well, you can't sleep in the park, but maybe you can stay on the cobblestones in front of City Hall. Well, no, you can't do that. Then they said, well, you can sleep on the sidewalk because it's legal to sleep on the sidewalk. And finally they said, no, you can't do that
Because you're blocking the sidewalk.
because you're obstructing pedestrian traffic. You go, oh my God, okay. But since that, unfortunately, they have enacted new restrictions that essentially closed City Hall on the weekends and extended the City Hall grounds to what they call the City Hall campus, which also includes now the public library grounds, and
Correct.
those are restricted by hours.
Correct. A city can run a city the way it wants to. I have no problem with that.
I mean, with people like yourself around who have the experience of having been around open sleeping areas and who have the experience of, you know, maintaining order and calm and security and good relations between people. Phil Posner and I, we're talking about Phil and Freedom Sleepers earlier, he and I suggested to City Council that they allow us to do safe sleeping areas.
Yes.
Give us an area, give us some place, you know, and we'll make it nice for people, put in some bathrooms, do some things, but that'll be a safe sleeping area for people. You don't want people sleeping unsafe and unsupervised. Here's an opportunity to have them sleeping both safe and supervised.
Correct.
And with people like yourself there to be able to help us supervise that thing. A perfect option, I think, a perfect outcome for people who just don't have any place else to go.
No, in at dark, out
That's
at
it.
light.
You
Right.
know, that's
and
it,
you
you know.
bring in what you carry, and you carry out everything that you brought in.
And that, you know, to some folks' credit, is the way that they conduct themselves as houseless folks. You know, they really keep up. They really take care of themselves. They take care of others. They take care of their surrounding places where they're supposed to be. But there is, you know, there's a lot of talk in Santa Cruz, and this. When I'm talking about houseless but at home in Santa Cruz, we should always be home in Santa Cruz. And there's a lot of talk about affordable housing. Talk about, well, we're going to create housing for people, and unfortunately not as much talk about permanent and supportive housing as there should for people who are houseless and who, you know, who are very limited income.
Right, and then the reason why they lose their place is for something that they got paperwork for anyway. I don't understand that either.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course they're going to mess up
Yeah.
whatever their social circumstance is. It's usually inviting too many
But
friends.
you know, we're kind of saying as an approach, I understand that housing folks that want to be housed is a good outcome, but that's a long-term strategy. They're not going to build the 1,000 units of housing we need to house people who are unhoused in Santa Cruz tonight. The last homeless census survey, the homeless count, point-in-time count, rose 10% in the county to about 2,200. It rose 100% in the city, 100%. So right now, and this evening, whenever you watch this show, you look outdoors, if it happens to be at night, there's 1,000 people out there somewhere who are unsheltered in Santa Cruz. And those folks, whilst they're waiting for housing to be built, that they might...
Or a bed at a shelter.
Or a bed at a shelter, that we have to find some way to, you know, to be able to let them, as I say...
Park their cart.
You know, park themselves, rest,
park their
get
cart.
themselves ready to get back in the employment market, get back in benefits, do something.
I have been woken up 3 times at one night, you know, most nights.
Yeah.
The first time I lay down because I want to lay down early, but most businesses close at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you lay down, then you get moved from that place, and you get, if they want to sweep, they sweep, and then that 4:30, that 3:30 call with first alarm. I mean,
Yeah.
I move on. Off.
Yes, yes.
They leave. I move right back up to, because of the mist and then sometimes the rain. I try to stay underneath the cover. I don't like tents. Very, very difficult for women.
But that's really a snapshot, a glimpse of what it's like to be houseless in Santa Cruz. You're a talented guy, you're an articulate guy, you make your way. There are people who are less talented than you, that are less fortunate than you in many respects, and they are really struggling in
Yes.
our community.
And the struggling comes from a lack of trust
Yeah.
with someone that actually can help them. They don't trust. It takes a long time to build that trust. And in the meantime, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm on my way to
Oh,
take care of me
and,
now.
And I'll give you a perfect example of that, which I think people would be interested in. When we had the most recent project, Homeless Connect, Santa Cruz Connect at Santa Cruz Bible, they let us use their huge bus. And so because it was kind of out of town a little bit, it's in Midtown, we drove around and see people if wanted to be transported over to Santa Cruz Bible. People, just because they may know me, aren't going to get on the bus to go somewhere if they don't trust you.
Or
you
if
know?
they can't
It's
bring
the
all their
trust.
stuff.
They can't bring all their stuff. So that you really have to generate, that bond of trust so that you can help people. And that's the kind of thing that really, going back to Occupy Santa Cruz, not only did we as activists trust you, but the Houseless community trusted you. So you were the perfect, ambassador
that was
between these people.
That was very, very, very enlightening. That was beautiful. That was what I was working for, and I didn't know how that destiny
And
was gonna...
you, appropriately so, had your picture in the paper and framed against, these 150 tents. Santa Cruz has really never seen the like of that. And I do, again, want to go back to the point that maybe it was the start of solidarity between houseless folks and activists in the town who are actively working in support of houseless folks.
There is a true...
To kind of form, a real consolidated and solid front.
We got that here. This is the first town that I've actually enjoyed homelessness.
Yeah.
It's small enough where they finally will know the difference between someone sitting on the curb and someone sitting and watching a parade.
Right. Well, I'm hoping that this conversation has been interesting for people here on Connect, but also kind of enlightening, to let you understand, what it is like being houseless in Santa Cruz and yet at home. These are residents. 68% of all people who are houseless in Santa Cruz tonight were residents of Santa Cruz before they became houseless. They're our friends and neighbors. There are the people who we should be reaching out to in the ways that we can. But you get an idea, a glimpse of my work, my participation in that, but also a great guy like Dreamcatcher and what he does in the community. So I hope you'll turn in again at the next Connect. We'll have another wonderful show about things happening in the community, and I'm sure that you'll be just as interesting and enlightened as I hope you've been on this show. So Dreamcatcher, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, buddy. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Connect.
I can't wait to see this one. All right.
Brother?